Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 and Correspondent Week Wednesday. First up, it's our newest member to the Premier League and one of the newest members of the Planet FPL Correspondent team. It's our Luton Town correspondent, Dan Ashby's here now. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, all good, James. Looking forward to this.
Yes, likewise, mate. So we recorded with you a couple of days after the playoff final victory against Coventry, and we spoke then a lot about the story, the journey, how you drop down the leagues, how you come back up. And for anyone who wants the backstory of Luton, I very much recommend catching up on that. Now we're here. What
Yeah,
we circa 10 days away, near enough. We're pre-recording this on Monday night. How are you feeling now? Are nerves kicking in now?
there's like a realization that we're here now because there was like a bit surreal where yes, we'd won, but you don't quite gather what's happened until the first thing is that the fixtures, and then you're on the same line as Liverpool, Man United, Man City, and Newcastle, and that definitely hits in. But yeah, like I said, there's no pressure on us really. So it's basically a free hit. So I'm looking forward to it. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm just
No,
really
it's
excited.
probably
I just
like you said. I mean, the one thing I said to you when we recorded before was like, enjoy it. Like, don't stress
yeah,
too much about August. But we're here now. It is
yeah,
August. You've already pissed everyone off in the league, haven't you?
yeah. That's all right there.
Is this
I,
is this a route? I'm not sure that narrative's correct though. That Luton's pissed everyone off. So the game week 2 fixture against Burnley's postponed, which obviously makes it difficult for some of your assets from an FPL
yeah,
perspective as well. But this narrative that you've already pissed off the league is that generally how Luton fans feel at the moment?
yeah. But we're not going to be able to outplay a lot of these teams. But it's quite nice causing a little bit of mayhem, whether that's well, as you mentioned, game week 2 cancelled, and then they broke the news last week that we're not putting in undersoil heating, even though that was pretty common knowledge with Luton fans about a month ago. Um, but yeah, I don't really see it as that much of an issue. Like games get cancelled lower down the leagues pretty regularly, so
Yeah, but
it
not when
suits
people
us.
want to captain Erling Haaland in game week 16 when City go to Luton in December. I can already see it
Yeah.
already, mate.
Oh, I hope it does. For us, it's better if it's on any game's better if it's midweek game. It suits us. The atmosphere will be better. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not saying we're going to get
Haaland
games.
double game week though, mate. Luton away, yeah, we'll have some of that.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Mind you, didn't your chief exec say that he reminded everyone, didn't he? Won't come through the away and he'll come through the ship main entrance.
Yeah,
He's on a serious on the no undersoil heating because I think the last team that had I want to say was Blackpool, I think,
yeah,
and Blackpool lost a couple of games. So if we have a bad winter, you had I think game against Millwall, I want to say maybe postponed last
yeah.
year.
That was postponed, but I'm not sure whether that was frozen pitch or whether that was safety for the surrounding areas.
Okay,
So yeah, look, there's a chance if there's bad winner, then it you could get the odd game, but I'm not sure it's going to be like 2, 3 games. It might just be the odd one, to be honest.
are they going to put anything in place in terms of try and make sure it doesn't happen? Do you know?
Yeah, I think so. Especially if it's like a TV game
Yeah.
and we're scheduled and it looks bad, doesn't it? So yeah,
Well, the
we're
chance, I
going to
mean,
do everything.
we've mentioned that Man City game. The chances are when they go there, it probably will be a TV selected game, won't it? It's going to want to see the treble winners
Yeah,
go to Kenilworth Road. You
yeah, I
can
think
see
so.
that script already.
Then it looks embarrassing if games get called off, then it for weather in this league. So if we didn't have to do the stand, I'm pretty sure they would have paid to get it fitted. And if we stay up, we will, from what I gather, we will have to put it in next year, which is fine. So
Yeah, I think it's worth saying Luton have been kind of excused on the undersaw heating because they had to obviously prioritise the stand was the main thing to house media, etc., etc. And the cranes were on the pitch, so you couldn't do the
yeah,
undersaw heating while the cranes were on the pitch sorting out the new stand. So
yeah,
that's why you've been excused. And yes, should you stay up, you probably will have to have it put in place
Yeah.
next year. Yes, it's something to be aware of. Have you heard any whispers on the Burnley game in terms of a date or anything at all?
No, the Gary Sweet seemed to reckon it'd happen pretty quickly, but
Okay.
I've not looked at fixtures, so I know they don't like clashing with Europe and things like that. So it'll probably depend on if we get knocked out of League Cups and
Cups, yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, I'd kind of ring sort of like game week 17, which is just after your
Yeah.
postponed game against Man City. Maybe that's not the best time to arrange you to play with the no undersaw heating. But I looked at game week 17's Carabao Cup quarterfinals. So if you and Burnley were both out, that's
Yeah.
probably the first one where you could give the Burnley fans plenty of notice and it doesn't clash with UEFA competition. I wouldn't be surprised. I said to a few people that he might not even be well into the second half of the season. But it'd suddenly be interesting if it was quite soon. And we suddenly got Luton double game week in a run that includes game week 4 to 10, Dan. West Ham, Fulham, Wolves, Everton, Tottenham, Nottingham Forest. He's not a bad run at all. Now, because that Burnley game has been pulled out, it's Brighton away and Chelsea away with a blank in the middle. It looks rough. It looks like there's every chance you could go into that Friday night game with West Ham and possibly the expectation is probably that you'll be on zero. If you get anything out those two, you'd probably be quite happy with that, I would guess. There's no concern about the West Ham game at this stage, is there?
From what I gather, no. We briefly spoke to it before we started recording. From what I gather, we were ahead of schedule and we probably could have made the Burnley game, but it's very fine margins and um, we don't want to get in trouble with the Premier League and with like fines and point deductions and also the fans. We don't want to cancel it like a week before, and the Burnley fans have already paid
Yeah.
for their tickets and travel and things like that. So I
Yeah,
think it was the
the
correct
word was
decision.
actually I didn't think it'd be the case, but apparently the Premier League gave the thumbs up to the game being switched to Turf Moor. But I think one of the clubs, I think it might have been Burnley, actually looked like they declined that offer. I don't know if they themselves maybe didn't want to start with 4 home games. I'm not sure, but it's certainly not Luton all at fault in this scenario. And I think there's also the case exactly what you said that it didn't want to be a week before season started and we've got a problem here. It's going to be last minute. They basically just couldn't offer the guarantee, right? So they decided to call it off now. Okay, fine. You said when you came on that pod with me a couple of months ago, you said we will take some batterings.
Yeah.
Is that how you still feel, or is confidence beginning to flow now as we get towards it?
So I think we will still take some batterings from like the top sides, but the business we've made and maybe Sheffield United, Wolves not looking great. I'm starting to think anyone from the bottom half will be able to compete with, I think. So they're the games that will really matter. The points against the teams that are up for relegation. Um, plus some of those big boys coming to Kenilworth Road, I think we could get the odd points here and there, to be honest.
There's a lot been made of the stadium, and it will be. I think,
Yeah.
particularly in the run up to that West Ham game being on a Friday night on
Yeah.
the telly, there'll be a lot more about it. But do you see it as a very serious advantage? You even speak to people like Neil Grover, our Bournemouth correspondent. He says, that small atmosphere, actually in that tight ground, yes, it really helps us. Speaking to Tom Med, who we just had on after we'd finished recording, he said, I'd said to him, you probably regret not building a bigger stadium. He's like, yeah, but the atmosphere wouldn't be the same and stuff. So do you see it as a real advantage, Kenilworth Road?
Yeah, I do. Because it's just so old fashioned, it's not a nice place to play. And a lot's been made of, like you mentioned, about Haaland coming through the away entrance, but it's not really in a nice area of town either.
You're selling it, Dan.
Well, it's the truth. It's not a nice ground, and we mentioned on when I came on it's very tight, hostile. If fans don't want to give you the ball, they won't. They'll shout in your face, things like that. So and especially at night games, which I'm hoping the West Ham stays the Friday night and doesn't move to Sunday at 12. That's that's going to be some atmosphere for that game.
Also, memories of a very iconic West Ham game. I'm sure you'll see that in the lead up to it as well. The Michael Oakes hat trick, FA Cup quarter final
Yeah, yeah.
replay, 1994. Yeah, if you know your history and all that. For those who've not seen you play before, Dan, what's the system, and is that ever likely to change?
So it's 3-5-2 or like 3-4-1-2. We've played this formation for the last couple of years. Initially, after under Nathan Jones, and we specifically hired Rob Edwards because he plays the same formation, maybe a little bit more on the ground, not as much in the air, but we will be direct at times, and not so much like hoofing it forward. It'll be more we can play into our strikers. So whether that's down the channel or to feet or in the air, we Morris is 6 foot, Adebayo's 6'3". So I think their ability to they're not like they're quite mobile strikers as well. So I think it'll cause a lot of problems to defenders. Plus, we won't sit back as such. We will engage quite high in a press.
Yeah.
Not as crazy as Leeds have in the past, but we won't just sit back and soak up pressure. We do like to try and force errors higher up the pitch.
Do you think that'll be the case in big away games when you go to venues like Old Trafford, Etihad, and stuff? Can you foresee that? Because I can foresee that in all the games at Kenilworth Road still being a thing.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah,
not sure
yeah.
when you go on your travels, you're going to go, oh, let's knock it over the top and let's get them turned and let's box them in. I'm not sure that's what's going to happen.
Honestly, don't know. Look, we didn't really change our way in the championship against some of the bigger sides, but it's a different kettle of fish in the Premier League. I think, like you mentioned, at home, we'll do that against anyone. Um, because the pitch is quite narrow and it's just easier to press on that pitch. But to be honest, I don't know. We might go away and maybe go, line up more of a 5-4-1. I'm not too sure, but we haven't. I've had no indication that we will do that.
So I guess that would put a little bit of a threat as it would stand. I presume we say Morris and Adebayo up front at the moment.
Yeah,
I guess under that circumstance, Morris would play up front on his own, would he?
yeah, I think so. But like I said, that we've not really seen anything to suggest we wouldn't play two up front. I think it might be more in game. We might tweak it. So I'm sure we'll get onto players we've signed. We've brought a lot of pace in, who can play out wide. So I think maybe you might see us maybe change to like a 4-1-4-1 or things like if we're struggling down our wings just to protect our fullbacks, wing backs at time.
Primarily wing backs, and that probably brings us on nicely because, Dan, despite that blank, there's a lot of Luton players we should be interested in, I believe. You can make a case for many and across the board in the enabling position. I'd like to ask you first, not Issa Kabore, we'll come on to him. As it stands, what chance has Cauley Woodrow got of minutes up front?
Think he's fourth choice at the minute.
So it would
So I
be
think
Morris Adebayo and then,
Bene,
of
who we
course,
signed
signed
from
from
to come
Rotherham.
in. Yeah, he can play wing back up front, but he's looked better playing up front in pre-season. I also think we probably are still after another striker. Um, so at the state of play at the minute, I'd say Woodrow's probably fourth choice, might get 15 minutes.
But if it becomes fifth choice, he's not getting anything or he's potentially leaving, I'd guess. So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I presume not the 4.5 forward of choice then. I guess that also makes Adebayo a little bit of a risk because we are looking at a forward here who's 5.0 and as it stands would play regularly, but potentially becomes a risk, right?
Not sure. Not as it stand, I wouldn't say he's a risk. Um, I've been asked this question a few times, and I personally think he's the best 5 million striker in the game.
Well, not Chris Wood.
No, not Chris Wood. And the Bay is better. Yeah, I just think they'll play most of the time up front together, and they got pretty similar data last year. It's just Morris was a better finisher, whereas Adebayo is still a bit raw, but maybe in a couple of years, maybe has a higher ceiling, I think.
Who's the pen taker?
Oh, we don't know that.
Oh, okay. Why's that? Because you ain't had a
Because,
penalty for a couple of years, or
well, no, so it was a bit of a mess last year. So Adebayo was the penalty taker. He scored one and missed one. Uh, I actually think Cordy Woodrow is the best penalty taker at the club, but he's just hardly
not going to
ever
play?
on the
Yeah.
pitch. And then Morris took the last penalty last season against Middlesbrough, but it was we were already guaranteed a playoff place, and it was for Morris's 20th goal. And Morris afterwards said that Adebayo gave him the ball just to take the 20th penalty.
So Adebayo might be the penalty taker.
And but he's terrible at penalties. So I hope he's not the penalty taker.
I've had that question as well. Who takes penalties for Tottenham if Kane leaves? Doesn't matter. None of them are going to be any good at it in comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some dodgy ones as well. So Adebayo probably on pens, but he might miss them, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I hope it's Morris. So Morris obviously had one in the penalty shootout he scored. He scored one in pre-season, Morris, but Adebayo wasn't on the pitch.
Right, so we don't actually know. That's interesting. If you had to start with Morris or Adebayo, which one? Yeah, so you'd say he's worth the, despite the fact you're saying the underlying numbers suggest that the data is quite similar, you would pay the extra 0.5.
Yeah, he's just a better all-round striker. Left foot, right foot, good in the air. Um, just a bit more confident if he in front of goal that he'll score and take the chance.
You said Adebayo is the best 5.0.
Yeah,
I presume you don't think Morris is the best 5.5.
he's up there, and it's hard because we got no game week 2 and
Yeah. Then it
tricky
becomes a bit
fixtures.
much, doesn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't start with him.
No, I think those front two are going to be more. Let's have a look at the first couple and then West Ham and then know where you're at once the window's shut. And then that little period, like I said, Fulham, Wolves, Everton, Tottenham is at home, Nottingham Forest is a good little run where perhaps if people are using that early wild card, we can look at these guys as kind of a different type of enabler, it feels like. But defensively, there definitely is some enablers we can start with. Marvelous Nakamba, definite starter, no question.
Yeah, no question. He's a bit behind in pre-season, but we've got a game on Wednesday where I think he'll play 60, and then we've arranged 2 games away at Bochum, where I'm guessing everyone will pretty much play full 90s. So I'll be amazed if Nakamba doesn't start. Yeah, he's our most important signing we've made so far this season.
Out and out holding midfielder or anything more
Yeah.
advanced on top of that?
No. You've
So as it stands, he feels like the one absolutely assured, definite 4.5 million starter in the game. But
yeah.
I don't expect anything on top of 2 points from it.
He could get less. He could get a booking, right?
You're not selling it, Dan. Do you think to start
No,
with
but
Mr. Marvelous?
yeah, I think so. I
Right.
like having 3 strikers. What's the point of playing in a fantasy game without 3 strikers?
Are you going to start with 3 Luton players?
I was going to, but with game week 2, I might a blank. I might start with 2.
Yeah, I mean that makes it even more awkward unless you go with a keeper, and that's also awkward, which we'll come on to.
Yeah,
These 4.0s, there's 3 of them.
yeah,
Mads Anderson, centre back, signed from Barnsley. Amari'I Bell, who was everybody's great hope when the game launched, and now Issa Kabore. I've probably already
yeah.
given the game away, but I think I know what you're going to say. Kabore's the one, right?
Yeah, it has to be. He's currently our only natural right wing back. We've signed him on loan from Man City, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be first choice, and he's attacking.
It was I mentioned on the I think it on the transfer window show with Clayton that I had vibes of Jed Spence. What I looked at him, kind of really raw but very direct in terms of
Yeah,
what he does. It almost feels completely not in question unless you add someone else that he's going to play at right wing back. And your wing backs were pretty important for you last year, and obviously will be again this year. They are very much encouraged to go forward, aren't they, Dan?
yeah, they will. Just in the few pre-seasons, one thing I know friendlies, one thing I noticed, Kabore's only played 45 minutes, but him and Chong were linking up very well. They were switching play to Kabore, and a couple of times he nearly got in behind. The defender had to basically take him out, otherwise he was going to get in, get to the byline. So yeah, that's definitely encouraging. Kabore's probably the standout 4 million in the game, to be honest.
So right now, at time of recording, Kabore is in 2.2% of teams, which I understand because it's new to the game. Amari'I Bell's still in 18%. Do you think by the time game week one starts that Kabore will have more ownership than Bell?
Sure, to be honest, because I'm not. I think people might just leave Bell in there. I think Bell will start, but the upside's 100% with Kabore.
Tell us about Bell for people who don't know. What is he?
So he was originally a left back or left wing back, but we were struggling at centre back last year, and we had Alfie Doughty who's better going forward anyway. So Bell was asked to tuck in, and since he got tucked in, he played really well there, and he's first choice at left centre back now.
Can he also play wing back?
He can do, but we have signed Ryan Giles, so
Yeah.
he'll be third. He'll be third choice at wing back.
Ryan Giles did really well at Middlesbrough last year. He's
Yeah.
4.5. Could you make any case to pay that extra over Kabore?
No, because I think him and Doughty are going to share minutes. I think.
Okay, so you don't think Giles is a lock at left wing
No,
back
no,
then?
no, no.
How much did
No, I
they
think
how much did they change last year? Was it regularly? Say because obviously you would have played sort of Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday in the championship a lot.
yeah,
Would you have had the same wing back regularly for all three of those games?
yeah. Edwards very rarely changed the
Okay.
team unless it was, you get told by the team, your backroom staff that someone's struggling, then he would change it. But we very rarely changed our side at all during the season.
Mads Anderson's joined from Barnsley. We
Yeah.
expecting him to go into the team or not?
Initially, I wasn't expecting him, but we've had Osho is injured. He's hurt his knee. He hasn't played any minutes in pre-season, and Burke played 45, but hasn't been seen in the last two friendlies. So just because he's up to speed, I think we could see Anderson playing right centre back game week one.
So hang on, you think Anderson could play right wing back or right side centre
Right
back?
set, right centre back.
Right side centre back. So is it still going to be Lockyer essentially? Because I think Anderson played the central role quite a lot at Barnsley, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. It was interesting. I managed to watch Sheffield Wednesday, the stream we played, and in the first half we played Anderson in the centre and Lockyer at the on the right side.
Okay.
I didn't like that. In the second half, they changed it, and we were a lot better. So, personally, I'm hoping Anderson stays at right sided centre back.
Can you put your finger on what it was that you didn't like on that?
I just think Lockyer is better in the middle three. Um,
Is that a
I
distribution thing or a defensive thing?
think it's defensive thing. I don't like him in what coming out wide. Lockyer, um, like I said, towards the end of last season, it was Osho who's a lot more mobile and similar to Bell on the other side. So I'm not really encouraged that Anderson's going to have to do it, but he's a bit more mobile than Lockyer.
Okay. So at the moment, we're probably looking at Anderson right of the three, Lockyer central, and Amari'I Bell left.
Yeah.
And I take it Lockyer has made a full recovery from the horrible incident in the playoff final. As
Yeah,
long as he's
so
fine played.
he had a operate. It was a heart problem. He had an operation. He is a little bit behind, but he did play 90 minutes against Sheffield Wednesday, so I think he's up and running. I think.
Now, I wouldn't normally do this, and most of our listeners should know because you guessed it on our podcast on Friday or the EFL Fantasy podcast. It does feel a bit silly with these 4.0s not to get your opinion on particularly the guys at Burnley. And the reason that's so
Yeah,
relevant is you don't really want to start with, say, if we say Kabore is the best, that's fine. But we could make a case for, say, Jordan Bayer at Burnley.
yeah,
Can't go with both, really, can you? Because you've got no cover in game week 2 then.
yeah. I would go Kabore. I think Bayer is nailed at Burnley, so it's not a minutes thing. It's the fact that Kabore, the upside is just a lot higher than Bayer. I know Bayer did score in a friendly, but yeah, from you're getting a right wing back in a team that likes to get their wing backs pushed forward. So there's a good chance of assists from Kabore.
Worth saying your fixtures after the blank is better than Burnley's as well. There's a couple
Yeah,
of games I think you could make a case to play him for Bayer. Other than game week 5, I don't think you'd be starting. It'd be interesting to see what Jack says on Friday night. But Sheffield United, the other promoted team, have a 4.0 right wing back as well in
yeah.
George Baldock. Is that a better choice than Kabore?
I don't think so. I think if anyone played Gaffer last year, um, he would. There's Jaden Bogle around who would randomly just play a game or couple of games, and then he'll come on for 30 minutes. So I'm not saying Kabore won't get subbed because what will happen is they'll move Doughty to right wing back, but I think he's just more secure with minutes. Obviously, you'll have to speak to Tom. I know Tomo is very high on
Oh,
Bulldog because we
Tomo
beat
will be
Dusky.
high on everybody. He'll still probably
Yeah,
probably still tip up Ilman and die. Sorry, Tomo. So we saying Kabore and Giles probably starting wing backs.
no, not for game week 1. I
You
think
don't
it'll
think Giles will
be
start?
no. I think it'll be Kabore and Doughty, just because I think Giles is probably a couple weeks behind in pre-season.
Okay. So Nakamba will sit. We think Morris and
Yeah,
Adebayo up front. We've got two
yeah,
spots to fill in this team. I'd
yeah,
take it to Hee Chong's going to be one.
yeah. I'll be amazed if he doesn't.
As a right-sided 8, you mentioned about that link already with Kabore.
Yeah, not sure that they'll float those two in there. He's left-footed Chong, so it was quite nice. He was a couple of times he was on the other side of the pitch and used his left foot to change the play to Kabore.
I mean, he's got experience as a winger, isn't he? Chong.
Yeah, but
So
we're going to use him in centre mid because it was very clear last year we didn't have a player that could travel with the ball in centre mid like Chong can. He's quite powerful and a good dribbler. So um, if we're under siege, it'll be a good player for him to get and then run up, I don't know, 20, 30 yards and maybe win a throw in or something like that. He's quite good on the ball. He doesn't lose it very much.
you see him as a definite starter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Has to be.
who's the final man? Is it Jordan Clark?
I think it will be. I think it'll be between him and Pelly Ruddock and Panzu. Um, Pelly's a little bit behind on game time. Um, it's typical Pelly. He decides to sign his contract a couple of days into pre-season, so he doesn't have to do the running. And then,
Is that right?
yeah, he does it regularly. He misses the couple of days, so he ends up a week behind. And then he also had a knock, so he missed the Ipswich game, but he did play the last game. So it's I think just because Clark has played minutes, he'll get the nods. Although I think Chong and Pelly would probably be a better balance.
He's going to get attention in terms of his story as well. And he's obviously
Yeah,
played for Luton in National League, League Two, League One, Championship. He'll certainly get on at some point, won't he? Even if it's a substitute appearance at the start, there's going to be something, isn't there? But you think he's genuine contention to start, therefore.
yeah.
Right, we now know the Luton team. That's good, except we don't because we missed one position intentionally. So goalkeeper, I understand the deal was in place for Alex Palmer from West Bromwich Albion at the time of
It's a
recording, but
mess.
it's off. Is that right?
Yeah, from what I get, from what I gather, it's been a bit of a mess. So I'll probably start at the beginning. Horvath was our goalkeeper last year. We had a clause to buy him for 1.5 million. We turned down that, which I'm probably quite glad of because if you look at like stats, he made the most mistakes leading to goals last year. So I think it was more the fact that our defense was so good that um, it was covering up problems Horvath has within his game, like decision making off the line and things like that. So I was quite happy with that. So I think we are after two goalies, but we've been linked to about 10 goalies, and for one reason or another, they just not get. We were after Begovic, and he went to QPR because
Yeah,
he set up an academy, and QPR said he could use their facilities for his academy, and
fair enough.
he wanted to be first choice as well.
Yeah,
Uh, Tom Heaton, it looked like that was going to happen, but then Man United needed to sign another goalie apart from Nana, and that goalie doesn't want to join Man United, so that's not happening. And we've been after numerous others, but we won't pay. We're not going to pay over the price if we don't think
no,
they're
you're not.
worth it.
You're not going to go in for say Dean Henderson, are you?
No, no,
Is
no.
the point? You just from financially, you're not going to do that. And I suppose that'd probably be the same Matt Turner at Arsenal. Even would probably be too much,
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
it?
I'm guessing so. Yeah.
So it might be something that comes. Are we looking at loans potentially then to cover this off?
Um, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure it'll get sorted for game week one.
So as it
And
stands, James Shea will playing goal. I'm guessing
yeah,
out of the two.
I think there's been a bit of meltdown on from Luton fans on Twitter, which I can understand, but we only play once between now and the 25th of August because obviously the Burnley game is called off. So if someone said to me, you have to start James Shea in goal for Brighton, but we'll get one or two goalies that we definitely want in for the Chelsea game, I would take that every day of the
Yeah,
week.
I get
So
that.
yeah, it's not a
Oh,
great
we've
situation.
almost listen. You don't want to get like dismantled and battered in these two games, but Brighton away and Chelsea away as your first two fixtures are their
Yeah,
swings, aren't they? You can swing
yeah,
at them
they
a
are.
bit,
Yeah,
and if it goes bad, it goes bad. Then the window shuts. Then there's the West Ham game. So you're
yeah.
almost looking at saying get it right for the West Ham game. I suspect Dan, you'll probably end up with some keeper we've never heard of. Is probably rather than say taking someone on big wages from a Premier League team on loan
Yeah.
or something. It's probably going to more likely be that.
Well, we've been linked with a lot of goalies in the championship, but I think because they think we've got money, they're asking for like 5 million. We're not going to pay that for a goalie.
You know, people will find that staggering. You know that.
Yeah, we won't pay that.
So Chong's your record buy now, isn't he? 4 million.
The, I'm not sure. It might be Giles. It's pretty close.
Oh,
They were
similar
both
value,
around
yeah.
4 or 5 million.
So, is there any chance between now and the transfer window shutting that you go, we're going to pay 10 million for this player? I'm not saying a goalkeeper, any position.
Maybe a striker, I think. It might not be.
Uh,
We
uh,
we haven't.
Has there been talk of a specific budget, like what you're working within, or
So I know Gary Sweet said he sort of split down, the 100 million you get when you go up. So it's the ground's costing 12 million. We then had another about 12 million we've had to pay for like bonuses, and we had a lot of bonuses to other clubs for like if players got promoted,
Yeah, sure.
we'd give you money. And we then put 25 million aside for the ground. So we're then left with
Is
50
that the
million,
current or the new one?
the new one. So we spent
Yeah.
12 million on the upgrades,
Yeah.
12 million on bonuses, 25 million's gone to the new ground. And then we've got 50 million, which will probably include like increasing our wage budget
Yeah.
as well as signing fees as well. So far we've spent about 2 or 3 million on Anderson, about 5 million on Chong, 5 million on Giles. Bene was a free. Kabore was on loan. I don't know if we have a loan fee in that. And then Nakamba, no one seems to know what price that
Probably
could
not a
be.
lot, but that might even be the
Yeah,
record buy, possibly.
think I'm not sure it will be. I think it might be. He might be our highest paid player, so we
Okay.
might be
Have you
paying a
heard
bit
the
on his weight.
reported salary? Just to make
No,
everyone
no, no.
laugh. We did
It
cover
well,
off on the last pod that there were players in the Premier League earning more than your entire squad quite comfortably.
yeah. I would think most of our players are probably on 15, 20 grand, and there'll be players on under it, but we did manage to sign up a lot of our key members have signed new deals throughout the summer.
Have you got anyone of value that you could move on? You know, someone would get you 5-10 million in the door, for example, as part of a
Uh,
trading exercise.
no, I don't. Not that we will want to lose.
Yeah, so
Um,
I suppose we, if a bid coming from Morris, it'd have to be pretty big, wouldn't it, for you to consider it, for
yeah, yeah,
example? Okay, so I'm probably playing with circa maybe 20 million, maybe.
yeah. 20, 25 million, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so I mean, you ain't going to spend all that
different
just on
ones.
you're not just going to spend all that on if Arsenal want 10 million from Matt Turner, for example. He's
It's
not
not
going to.
happening.
No, you, you're boxed in a bit, aren't you? This is why most people, Dan, will think you've got no chance.
Yeah. No, that.
Is that a fair assessment?
Well, as in we've got no chance.
Yeah.
Like,
So
we've got a chance, right?
of course you do. Listen, it's 22
Yeah.
people on a football pitch, and it's not easy
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
score goals. Of course, you've got a chance. Do you think if I said to you now you'll stay up, would you say yes or no?
Very 50-50. I think if I was to say it now, I'd probably have us 17th or 18th.
I think that's okay, mate. I wouldn't expect you to sit there and go, I think we're going to finish 20th. And I know that you've already mentioned Sheffield United probably not looking in a great state at the moment either. And there's concerns about Wolves, Everton.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee. Listen to Mark. There's no guarantee Forest are going to be better. Bournemouth got a new manager and go either way. Palace have got injuries at the moment. Fulham might be losing their best player. There's others who can potentially get sucked into that. But in terms of the financial implications to you, it does just look like it's just a giant leap that almost feels, I think, for a neutral, it almost feels impossible. We've had this
Yeah.
before with, Bournemouth, small club and stuff. But the reality is Bournemouth come up and had a rich benefactor who actually spent a bit of cash and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's not the case for you. You're a
No.
fan-owned football club. Anybody who's a
Yeah.
neutral this year, who does, I don't know, who's supporting the Premier League this year, support shithousery at Luton Town this year, honestly, and get behind it because it's a miracle, really, that you're here.
Yeah. Like I
Enjoy
said,
it.
we went through the history in the last pod, but we basically went all the way down to non-league and back up. Um, it's remarkable. We've had the ridiculous rise where we haven't finished lower than we have for like 9 years in a row. We've constantly improved. So I know the signings don't look great to neutrals, but
I
I
think they
can
look
see,
intelligent, mate. Actually, I disagree with that. I think they look
yeah, they are.
intelligent.
Like I said, that they are purposely recruited. to add us something we don't currently have? Or, for example, a Bene, he's a free agent from Rotherham. He's rapid, really quick. Mads Anderson, 6'4", Chong, strong, powerful ability to run with the ball. Giles, good delivery, good set pieces. Nakamba is probably our only Premier League experience. Kabore, pace and power. So there might just be times where we overpower a team.
Oh, I definitely think that there's a physicality impact in terms of,
Yeah.
at Kenilworth Road. I mean, it's clear. I'm fairly sure that at some point this season, you're going to beat a side that would be considered top 10 at home.
Yeah,
And
I hope so.
just checking my calendar, yep, that will probably be game week 8, I believe. And you can check for yourselves who's going to Kenilworth Road in that week. I asked the correspondents, Dan, to fill in a survey in terms of
Yeah.
predicting certain positions. Did you fill Luton in for any of the answers?
I think I've done a 17th, I think.
How many of the correspondents do you think put you to finish in the bottom three?
Probably, I reckon 18.
17. So not all.
Yeah.
So to sit here and say no chance, there's a couple of neutrals here who think you'll stay up. Two people put to finish 17th and someone's gone higher. I assume that was you, but obviously not.
I've done 17.
Or someone's forgot you existed and just got to put you as an answer. 13 of the correspondents think you'll finish bottom. Another 4 think you'll finish 19th or 18th, which I think is fair enough. Like
Yeah.
in terms of prospects at how you measure up even against Sheffield United, Burnley, everything on paper would say you should finish bottom.
Yeah,
But
I know
but
that.
but it doesn't mean you will, right? How long did Wimbledon hang about for? And if you can hang about for that second season, then you can invest differently. If it becomes year 3, then you've potentially got a new stadium. And before you blinked, you're like what Brentford are now, who Brentford, it feels like they've been around for years, haven't just come up and
Oh, no.
exceeded expectations. Like everyone's forgotten. Like, oh, they've been here forever, been in the league for 2 years. A small football club. So you've got trophies in your cabinet, mate, 1988 and all that. So no, there's pedigree. I think it's going to be a real struggle. What I would say, Dan, is I think that game week 4 to 9 period, I think is really
Yeah.
interesting
I think
because
it's massive.
I think you'll get
We've
some
got to get
results in
points.
there. If you don't,
We're in
with what,
trouble.
Villa away, Liverpool at home, Man United away, and then a couple after you got Arsenal, Man City as well, then it's going to look bleak.
Yeah, I
Clearly,
know.
that would you look at that? You've probably sat and looked at the fixtures quite a lot, I should imagine. Does that feel like almost the most important bit of your whole season?
Beginning bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
that
so.
4 to 10.
Yeah. We've probably got to somehow be above point per game, I think, or close to a point per game at worst, I think.
Your running's interesting. Looking at your last 5 home games: Forest, Bournemouth, Brentford, Everton, Fulham. There's points
Not
there if you
winnable
stay
games.
around it, right?
Yeah,
Look at
we've got to
Forest
stay in
results at the
it.
City Ground, Everton at Goodison. You get in that running if you've got decent home games at the end, and you've got them. So for you, it's all about giving yourself a chance, right? And
Yeah.
I don't doubt that you'll do credit. People saying, "Oh, you're going to be like Derby and 11 points and all that." I think you're in for a surprise, but I also think it's fair to say it's going to be very difficult for you to stay up. Is the transfer priority now goalkeeper then, or is it something else?
No, it probably is a goalie. I think we're going to get 2 goalies, a striker, and maybe a centre mid. Maybe that offers something different. I'm not sure what.
What's the depth like? Because we've kind of talked through first 11 and stuff. Are there any young kids coming through or anything that people should be particularly aware of?
Not really. The problem we've had is because we've gone up the league so quickly. Um, they're not really good enough. We have sort of signed players to our development team, but we just keep progressing faster than they're able to break through. And anyone being near London, if we get anyone any good, they just get
Yeah,
poached by all the London clubs. So it's yeah.
yeah.
The last one was James Justin, but that was only because his dad made him stay, and he could see a way into the first team. But well, he supported Luton, so that helped. So
He's been a player very unlucky with injuries, hasn't he?
yeah,
Did Jack Stacey come through your academy or not?
no, he was at Reading's academy.
Okay. Yeah, a couple of interesting fullbacks there. And I think fullbacks is kind of the theme of this primarily. I think, Dan, I'll start with Kabore.
Yeah, I think I will
I
as well.
think with Nakamba, I've said this on a few of the other pods, I'd like to punt something that I think's got a ceiling of something
Yeah,
where
yeah,
someone who I can look at and go, oh, if you get in the team, you might jump up to 4-7, 4-8. Nakamba's not going to be that guy.
no, it's not.
He's probably going to finish on 70, 80 points and fine, great. And he'll cover for you nicely. But he's not going to do anything for me. I'd never for a
No.
moment consider starting him, for example. So, and because of the blank as well, I don't really think you can go for both. You're putting yourself in a very tight position, I think, if you go with two because of those opening fixtures and very importantly the blank. But obviously, if we did get news that Burnley game was going to be rearranged quite soon, we'll bench boosting with Kabore, Nakamba, and Bayer, and whatever your 4.5 million keeper you get in is perhaps. Dan, I wish you the very, very best of luck. Please plug the EFL Fantasy Podcast.
Yeah, sure. So if you don't know, I am a co-host of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. It's sorry, at EFL Fantasy on Twitter. We basically cover the Gather game, which is the Championship FPL. It's going to be bonkers league as it always is.
Great game. Obviously, you guys guested with me last Friday. And I think we had a good fun with that podcast. And I really encourage people to play Gaffer if they're interested. There'll be people listening to this who won't have listened to that. Try it. It's good fun.
Yeah,
A lot of
it
points to
is.
be scored. And I don't think he's one of them. I saw a comment one of our patrons made at the weekend said, you can miss a week and still really, it's not going to kill your season. You'll still really enjoy playing the game, which with midweek deadlines, sometimes I'll miss one or two. There's no doubt about it. Dan, well done, because I know you're not feeling 100% as well, mate. So well done on getting yourself through that. I think I want to say I penciled you in for the Chelsea away correspondent week. I think with Gary Mantle prior to game week 3, and we should have a better picture by then. I think in terms of what you're doing within the transfer window, mate. Is there anything else you want to plug?
Just follow me on Twitter at Dan Ashby. I'll try and help you out. Any information I get about signings or lineups, I'll try and let everyone know.
Good stuff. Top man. Enjoy it, mate. I said that to Tom Med
Oh,
2 years ago, and to be honest, I didn't think I'd be saying him much. And now he's just taking the piss out of me all the time now. We have a conversation now. We're both going, yeah, I think you probably beat us game week 1. So enjoy it. See where it takes you, mate. Brilliant stuff. You've got a game at Wolves on Wednesday night, and Bradley Parker is up next on Correspondent Week. And I don't know what we're going to get from Bradley because something's not right at Wolves at the moment. So they're next on Correspondent Week. Just leaves me to say thank you very much to Dan. Blow your nose, mate. Cue music, please, man child.